Hello everyone and welcome back to another Astroneer video. Now I originally thought that we were pretty much done with some new content updates from update 20, however there was one thing left that I did want to talk about, and that is the controversial Exo chip. Now it's not actually that much of a controversy, but a few people have expressed concern that there is a finite amount of Exo chips because only a certain number of Exo caches spawn, and they expressed that it might be difficult to actually farm up these chips to make the normal creations that we might normally have done before update 20 came out. So I figured I might as well put together a little bit of a video talking about how these Exo chips you can farm them and various good locations to do so, and kind of just give a little bit of a rough overview of what I feel the best way to get these Exo chips might be. Now, in order to exemplify this, I loaded up a brand new save on my last stream, and I played for about 3 hours, at the end of which I had 14 Exo chips, which is honestly quite a little bit of a haul. It allows me to make quite a few rover segments, the large shuttle, maybe an extra large shredder, the winch if I need it, or maybe a couple other thumpers here and there, and various things in between. So this is a pretty decent haul of Exo chips, and again, I got this after playing 3 hours of Astroneer, just because I bum rushed getting the Calidor factory for explosive powder, and then turning that into dynamite through my backpack. And again, that only took about 3 hours to do. It wasn't super challenging, I'd say. I definitely could have gone a little bit faster, optimized some other things and whatnot. But essentially what I'm trying to say is I don't think there should be a worry for getting these Exo chips. I think these Exo chips are decently easy to find, but in order to find them, you need to know the right places to look, which is a perfect segue because after finding all of these chips, I spent a little bit of time flying around a bunch of different planets and going through various layers to try to find what I felt might be the best location to get a lot of these Exo chips quickly, and some other strategies that might go along with that. So, with that being said, let's start with Sylva. For the sake of keeping this video reasonable, I'm going to talk about Sylva, Glacio, Atrox, and Vesania pretty much all at once. Now, each of these planets has a dedicated surface spawn location. For Sylva, this happens to be in forest. Atrox, it's kind of like the cavernous, mountainous areas, like the canyon, so to speak. And Vesania and Glacio, I was not actually able to verify the specific biome that they appear in, but each of these locations really only spawns 1, maybe 2 Exo caches. They don't really do a good job of spawning a lot of them in close proximity that you can gather and absolutely farm these chips. Instead, and this is going to hold true for pretty much every single planet, so you will hear me say this quite a few times, the best way to get these chips actually is below ground. So now that we've touched down just upon the first level of the canyons, or the caves, excuse me, on Sylva, oh, we actually have a zebra ball over there. We have 3 of these Exo caches in close proximity. Now, even just flying around, we can already see that there's a few more that we're discovering. We hit a dead end over here, so we can't really continue in straight directions very much. But the general premise is that underground, we're encountering far more of these Exo caches than we did on the surface. And that is something that's going to hold true, as I said, for pretty much every single planet. When in doubt, in order to get these Exo caches, you want to go below ground. That's just going to be the best way to do it. Frankly, because the surface spawns appear to be a lot fewer and further between than the underground counterparts. And that just seems to be the way of the spawns. However, there is a slight difference between, as I mentioned, Sylva, Glacio, Atrox, and Vesania, and some of the more smaller planets, our fellow moons, which is going to be the next stop on our Exo chip discovery journey. In my opinion, the moons are actually the best place to find these Exo chips, and the reason being, just from our landing site of where we touched down, I already have 2 of these Exo caches in close proximity. And my personal theory is that the density of these Exo caches is actually roughly the same across each planet. However, because the moons are significantly smaller than the other locations, these actually make the Exo caches spawn closer together, so you don't need to actually go as far to come across them. Or there's a biome thing where the biomes actually span a larger portion of the planet and makes it easier for them to spawn or something like that. It could be one or the other. Honestly, I don't know. Just my personal theory. But as you can see, just flying around the surface, we're already passing quite a few of these Exo caches, and we really haven't even gone that far. The problem with these moon planets, however, is specifically on Novus, not necessarily as much on Desolo, traversing the planets is pretty much going to be your biggest challenge. There's a lot of mountains, there's a lot of these crag type structures and canyons, so being able to drive a buggy that I used on Desolo across Novus is really not going to be easy. So in that case, I think the hoverboard paired with a jetpack could be a very, very good option. Unfortunately, that cuts down the inventory space that you can actually use to store exochips as you find them. So it's going to be a delicate balance of making sure you actually have the mobility versus actually having the storage space to carry enough of these exochips. But the best place to find them, in my opinion, is actually going to be on these moon planets. The problem is, as I said, mobility is going to be your biggest issue. You might be asking though, but what about Calidor? Trust me, I haven't forgotten about Calidor. Calidor is coming up next. Now, Calidor is very unique, and that is because Calidor actually has the ability for you to make dynamite all on the planet itself. And that's kind of the setup that I had from when I was actually streaming this. I had my chemistry lab, I had my atmospheric condenser, and I had my smelting furnace powered by pretty much whatever scraps of power I could gather in about 3 hours of playtime. And Calidor itself isn't actually the best for the exochips. You only find a couple or so on the surface. Even just flying around right now, you can really see that I'm not getting that many pings for these exo caches. And once again, in my opinion, that has to do with either the sizing of the planet or how spaced out the biomes are. These caches do spawn in these mountainous biomes primarily, it looks like, as you can see by the fact that we just found 2 of them in this rough location. However, going down below ground, as I said, for pretty much holding true on every single planet, as soon as you actually get down to the layers where the cave system is, you're going to start finding quite a few of these caches just by traversing around. As you can see, we've already found 3, which is as much as we found on the surface. We're already getting more pings for other caches as we're just flying around. So we really do find a lot more of these caches underground for every single planet, as I've been reiterating this entire time. But as I said, the added bonus for Calidor is that you can actually make the explosive powder directly on this planet. The problem is, however, being able to traverse around as per usual is going to be your biggest bottleneck. Do you choose to use a rover or a buggy and have a little bit of extra storage space, but in compromising for that you need to be able to move around properly? Or do you use the hoverboard with maybe a jetpack and an oxygenator, but you need QTRTGs to power that, and so therefore you're sacrificing a little bit of inventory space for better movement and whatnot? So this is going to be where personal preference starts to kick in. You can definitely do a very good job of farming exochips on either the moons, Calidor, or pretty much any planet, but you're definitely going to do better with those first 3 planets that I did mention. And it's really going to be up to optimizing the process yourself. So I opted to use the buggy on Desolo, and traveling down below ground could get annoying sometimes, so I would leave the rover and then I would run around and I would mine things manually with my hands, and then I would run back and drop stuff off or place a dynamite on the rover seat just so I didn't have it in my inventory and various things like that. And that seemed to work very well for me. That's how I got these 14 in 3 hours. But you could also very well use the hoverboard and do quick trips and come back and then go another quick trip and then come back, or carry a medium storage or a medium silo with you or something like that. So there are a lot of options for how to farm these chips. And hopefully I've given you some good ideas of maybe the best place to go, maybe some of the best infrastructure to rush first if you're looking for these exo chips, or some good ways just to set up strategies to get as many of these exo chips as you might need. Now, before we end the video, there is one last thing that I wanted to mention about these exochips. You actually can get them as rewards from the limited time event. So the automated mass production protocol, upon completing the 3 stages, then asks for Astronium as the next extra tier of research. And in order to complete those stages, you need to supply 80 Astronium. Now, in the previous video on the LTE, I did have a rocket that allowed me to put 4 of the medium resource canisters. However, as you will see this time, I do not have that same rocket. So it appears as if it's a weird save thing where I must have gotten a save that gave me a different type of rocket or whatnot. But generally, this seems to be more of the rocket that you will end up seeing. Now, upon completing the required amount of Astronium, the shuttle actually rolls on a table of useful resources. So as you can see, I have some graphene here, some steel, some titanium alloy, a diamond, Unfortunately, I did not get an Exo chip. However, it is possible to get an Exo chip from this request platform. So for the people who might not necessarily be good at farming dynamite or going and finding the exo caches out in the wild, if you like getting resources and you like farming astronium, then you can certainly use it to possibly get some exo chips that way. So I don't know what the probability is. I do know that it has been confirmed that you can get the exo chip from the request platform. It just matters if you get lucky enough to get it rolled on the table or not. So with that being said, those are all the ways that you can earn exo chips. Now, I know that people have expressed concerns about getting exo chips being difficult or having to farm for them. I personally didn't think it was that bad to farm for a little bit of exo chips, but then again, I haven't started making any of the big tier items yet. So it very well could be that those high tier items are going to be an issue in the future, and we'll have to kind of see how things play out a little bit, because don't forget, this update has not been out for very long whatsoever, but hopefully we can see what people start to say with that soon. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully you did get some cool tips and tricks, maybe some good ways to actually farm these exo chips, and hopefully you found this useful. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully we'll see you in the next video, and have a good rest of your day, everyone. Take it easy.